hear the music? Hello, everybody. I'm Matt Robinson, and welcome to another exciting edition of the League Wraparound. This is the program that gets you caught up on anything and everything happening around the world of the NFL. Coming up on this edition of the program, we will preview Week 8's most important games, including Thursday Night Football between the Minnesota Vikings going up against the Los Angeles Rams. Also a big one, Sunday Night Football between the Dallas Cowboys versus the San Francisco 49ers. And Monday Night Football between the New York Giants versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, and so much more. And plus, we have your Week 8 game picks. Also, we discuss an important player that's going to be heading to Kansas City. And also, we discuss in detail about a very serious season-ending injury. So that's all coming up on this edition of the program. And as always, once again, thank you so much, as always, for tuning into the program. And as always, before we preview Week 8's most important games, let's recap Week 7's most important games in the NFL. Let's start off with Thursday Night Football. Sean Payton making his return to New Orleans as the Denver Broncos beat the New Orleans Saints 33-10. The NFL International Series in London between the New England Patriots and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville would win 32-16. The Detroit Lions took on the Minnesota Vikings. In a very close game, Detroit would win with the last-second field goal. Lions beat Vikings 31-29. We also had the Houston Texans go up against the Green Bay Packers in another thrilling game. Brandon McManus, his game-winning field goal was good for Green Bay, giving the Packers a 24-22 win over Houston. The Kansas City Chiefs took on the San Francisco 49ers in a rematch from Super Bowl 58. Kansas City would win once again. Chiefs beat the Niners 28-18. Sunday Night Football saw Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Russell Wilson, his first start as a Steeler and his first start of the 2024 season, was a little rocky in the beginning, but after halftime, the Steelers just mashed on the gas and there were no breaks. The Steelers' offense went down the field. Najee Harris and the power running game, it made all of the difference. The Steelers would beat the Jets 37-15. Monday Night Football was a doubleheader with the Baltimore Ravens going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Ravens would beat the Bucs 41-31. And then a close game between the Los Angeles Chargers and the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals would get a game-winning field goal as Arizona would beat the Chargers 17-15. And those were your scores from Week 7's most important games in the NFL. All right, as always, I like to start off with my top three storylines. I like to start off talking about the Baltimore Ravens. So the Baltimore Ravens handled their business last Monday night, beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 41-31. Lamar Jackson was Lamar Jackson. He did his thing in this game, not just running the ball, but he did his thing throwing the ball as well. He had 5 touchdown passes in this contest. Is Lamar the front runner to win this year's MVP? I believe he is. But I also think another MVP candidate to really consider is Derrick Henry. In this game, he had 15 carries for 169 yards, and he also had a receiving touchdown. Derrick Henry, it is such a shame that the Dallas Cowboys did not pursue Derrick Henry. During the offseason, Derrick made it perfectly clear that he wanted to play for the Dallas Cowboys. He has a home in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. But Jerry Jones, our boy Jerry, right, the president, the owner, and the general manager of the Dallas Cowboys, in the beginning was asked why was Derrick Henry not signed to the Dallas Cowboys. He says that they didn't have enough money to sign him. Well, if they didn't have enough money to sign him, they definitely had enough money to give those contracts to Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. If Derrick Henry was a Dallas Cowboy right now, he would make that offense go. Derrick Henry is a game changer in more ways than one, and he certainly would have changed the fortunes of the Dallas Cowboys offense. So that's what Jerry said right at the beginning of the year. And then recently, Jerry was on a Dallas radio station, and Jerry was asked again about Derrick Henry and how well he's played so far this year as a member of the Baltimore Ravens. He says that, and then he was asked how come Derrick was not signed to the team. And he says that Derrick would have not fit the style of offense that Dallas runs. I just don't get it. You could put Derrick Henry on any team in the NFL. He would fit in just fine. In a league where it's all about passing and being very quarterback heavy, it is refreshing to see a power running back do his thing. And for Jerry Jones to say that Derrick Henry, he didn't feel that Derrick would fit Dallas' style of offense and what they were trying to achieve, that is just insane. And Jerry Jones continues to dig himself into a deeper hole. Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, in my opinion, is the front runner for this year's MVP. But Derrick Henry is not too far behind him, and Derrick Henry has been a game changer for Baltimore's offense. He has been an X factor. What Saquon Barkley has been to the Philadelphia Eagles is what Derrick Henry has been to the Baltimore Ravens. And we talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, they're at the peak of their powers right now. But Baltimore is not too far behind them, because I firmly believe that these two teams will play each other again in January. The question is, will it be in the playoffs or will it be for the AFC Championship game? We still have a lot of season left to go. But the bottom line is this: the Baltimore Ravens, they're on a roll right now. Lamar Jackson in MVP form. Derrick Henry is in MVP form as well. And a lot of teams better look out, man, because the Ravens, I don't see the Ravens slowing down anytime soon. My next storyline is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. So the Kansas City Chiefs, they remain undefeated. The defending champions went out to the West Coast in the Super Bowl rematch against the San Francisco 49ers. Mahomes, the quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, statistically wasn't a great game, but he made the most important plays when necessary. But again, big ups to the running game. Kareem Hunt, he did his job. Boy, the Chiefs' defense, they've really handled their business this season thus far. You got guys like Chris Jones. You got Nick Bolton. You've also got guys like a George Karlaftis, just to name a few. And we found out about the injury with Jalen Watson, and that's really tough. But the Kansas City Chiefs are like a plug-and-play team. They are really the embodiment of a next man up. And I'll get more into detail about another person that's going to be stepping up for the Chiefs in just a little bit. But Kansas City, that's what they've done really the last 2 years. And as I've stated earlier on previous shows, Kansas City has been defined by the era of Mahomes, Andy Reid, and Travis Kelce. But the last couple of years, the identity has become more balanced, and the defense is getting more and more shine. And we definitely saw the defense step up in this contest with the Chiefs beating the 49ers. And this is, and can't forget about Justin Reed and also Shamari Connor. Kansas City, I talked about Baltimore not being too far behind Kansas City. And Kansas City, offensively, they haven't wowed anybody, but they've made the most important plays. And it's been running game and especially the defense that has played well. And again, the defense played extremely well against the 49ers, stopping Brock Purdy, putting pressure on him. Also not letting Deebo Samuel get too many catches. George Kittle, he got his in this game, but Brock Purdy was rattled in this contest. The pressure was on him, and Purdy threw several picks in this game. The Kansas City Chiefs, it's been next man up so far this year. No matter what happens, No matter the circumstances, they always find a way to make it happen. And they are a very resourceful team. And the resourcefulness is really showing up so far in this season. Really, the resourcefulness has really shown in the last several seasons with Kansas City, particularly on the offensive side. And again, we'll get more into Kansas City and making a big move on offense in just a little bit. But the defending champions, they remain undefeated. And for my last storyline is going to be Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson has been a very polarizing person the last several years. We know about the allegations against him. We know about all the stuff, all the negative things that he's had to endure. Again, nothing's been proven in the court of law. There have been allegations. Watson has had out-of-court settlements, but something happened terribly to Deshaun last Sunday, and I'm really upset about how Cleveland Browns fans really handled this. In the Week 7 loss that Cleveland had against their in-state rival, the Cincinnati Bengals, Watson had to be carted off the field after suffering a non-contact injury. It was later revealed that Watson tore his Achilles, and he is done for the rest of the season. As Watson laid on the field and as he was being waited to be carted off the field, Browns fans started cheering his injury. Now, let me be the first to say that regardless on how you feel about somebody, or regardless on whether you rock with this person or not, at the end of the day, the person suffered a devastating injury. Now, again, with the allegations and the lawsuits and things of that nature, nothing has been proven in the court of law. And for those alleged victims that happen to go through those situations, whatever happened during those incidents, my heart is with them. But at the end of the day, you don't cheer somebody because they've had a devastating injury. Somebody gets hurt, you start cheering for them, or, come on, Cleveland, you know better than this. And out of all of the cities that are booing people, Cleveland should really be the last city that should be booing someone. After all, Cleveland is a city that has had its share of a lot of disappointments, heartaches, and pains in the sports world. And again, as I stated earlier, you don't have to like somebody, but at the end of the day, the person tore his Achilles. The person had a devastating injury. Who knows what's going to happen going forward? But again, Deshaun, after this year, he's got 2 more years left on the $230 million fully guaranteed contract. And there's been some quarterback changes, and Jameis Winston will be the starting quarterback for the Week 8 matchup against the Baltimore Ravens, which we'll preview in just a little bit. But it's going to be a lot of decisions that are going to be made at the end of this season for the Cleveland Browns. Deshaun Watson, will this be motivation for him to play better? And let's be honest, since Deshaun has been in Cleveland, he has not played up to his Pro Bowl best. He has not played up to the Deshaun Watson level his first 4 seasons in the NFL when he was a member of the Houston Texans. Could this injury fuel his fire and he could get back to being what he once was? Or will this be a step back and this could make room for Jameis Winston or maybe a Dorian Thompson-Robinson? Who knows? But again, Deshaun Watson, Cleveland Browns quarterback, will miss the rest of the season due to an Achilles injury. All right, before we preview Week 8's most important games, I mentioned earlier about the Kansas City Chiefs being resourceful and just continuing to move on and be one of those plug-and-play teams, being next man up. Well, guess what? The Tennessee Titans will trade wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins to the Kansas City Chiefs. And in return, Tennessee will get a 5th-round draft pick that could turn into a 4th-round pick. This is huge. Kansas City, they've had their injuries at wide receiver. Rashee Rice is on injured reserve. Juju Smith-Schuster is down. And DeAndre Hopkins is a big move for Kansas City. And maybe this could give Patrick Mahomes the monster numbers that he needs on the offensive side. Mahomes, he's played decently, but he's made the offense in general has made the most important plays. And with DeAndre Hopkins coming over to Kansas City, and then, of course, you still have Travis Kelce. You've also got the backup tight end and Noah Gray. This is going to pay off big dividends for Kansas City offense. But again, the Tennessee Titans will be trading wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins to the Kansas City Chiefs in exchange for a 5th-round draft pick that could turn into a 4th-round draft pick. So this is big. This is going to be monumental. And if you know Andy Reid, Andy Reid is a mastermind in offense, putting together offensive formations, putting together all of these offensive packages. You better believe that Andy Reid will get DeAndre Hopkins in the offense quick, fast, in a hurry. And on top of that, Patrick Mahomes will definitely utilize him, especially with Rashee Rice still being on injured reserve, Juju Smith-Schuster out with an injury, and then also, too, we can't forget about Isaiah Pacheco still on injured reserve. And this is going to be exciting. This is going to be so fascinating. This is going to be great. And with the Kansas City Chiefs, as this show is currently airing, they have a record of 6-0. Hey, they may not lose anytime soon because a lot of defensive matchups, a lot of defensive coordinators, they're going to have to prepare intensely for a DeAndre Hopkins and Travis Kelce and a Patrick Mahomes. And this is going to be a lot of fun with DeAndre Hopkins headed to Kansas City. And also, too, broadcasting note to pass along to you, some broadcasting news, I should say. NBC Sunday Night Football, the original Week 9 game was supposed to be between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Philadelphia Eagles. That game has been flexed. The Week 9 matchup will be the Indianapolis Colts against the Minnesota Vikings at U.S. Bank Stadium in downtown Minneapolis. So again, originally, NBC Sunday Night Football, the Week 9 matchup was supposed to be the Jacksonville Jaguars against the Philadelphia Eagles from Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia, where the game has been flexed, and the game will now belong to the Indianapolis Colts and the Minnesota Vikings, and that game will be airing on Week 9 for the NBC Sunday Night Football. So for those of you that may not be familiar with flex game or flexible scheduling, basically what happens is that when the networks negotiate with other networks as well as the NFL to switch out a game in favor of a more competitive game, and that's what happened. So again, Jaguars, Eagles, originally Week 9 Sunday Night Football game, no longer the case. Switched out, and NBC instead will have Sunday Night Football Week 9 with the Indianapolis Colts going up against the Minnesota Vikings. And that should be an intriguing game with Anthony Richardson and, of course, the red-hot Minnesota Vikings with Sam Darnold, Justin Jefferson, and company. Now it's time to preview Week 8's most important games in the NFL. Thursday Night Football, the Minnesota Vikings will go up against the Los Angeles Rams. So first for the Vikings, tough loss last Sunday to the Detroit Lions, losing by a last-second field goal. Minnesota, it's tough when you lose, but it's another thing when you lose to your division rival. And I know Sam Darnold, Aaron Jones, Justin Jefferson and company, they're going to have it on their mind as they head to the West Coast to take on the Los Angeles Rams. For the Rams, an impressive win over the Las Vegas Raiders. Matthew Stafford did what he had to do. Not a great game, but he made some key throws when necessary. Kyren Williams was big in the win over the Raiders. The running back, he had 2 rushing touchdowns in this game. So the Vikings and the Rams, I think this game is going to be an offensive masterpiece involving Sam Darnold going up against Matthew Stafford. In this game for the Rams, Kua may be ready for this game. Cooper Kupp is expected to go for this one. And for the Vikings, Justin Jefferson. I mean, Justin Jefferson is one of the most electrifying players in the league. You can't go wrong when you've got a quality player like a Justin Jefferson. And then Aaron Jones has been very effective as the running back for the Vikings this year. So I think it's going to be an outstanding game, a competitive game on the West Coast, Thursday Night Football. The Minnesota Vikings going up against the Los Angeles Rams. The Philadelphia Eagles will square off against the Cincinnati Bengals. First for the Eagles, big win over their division rival New York Giants last week. Saquon Barkley went back to the New Jersey Meadowlands to go up against his old team. He played one heck of a game, and he put up some monster numbers in that contest. As for the Bengals, they beat their division, not just their division rival, but their in-state rival, the Cleveland Browns. Eagles, Bengals. You know the NFL is a quarterback league. Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow. On the receiving side, you've got A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith on one end. And for the Bengals, you've got Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. This is going to be one heck of a game. You've got both quarterbacks that are in their prime, at the peak of their powers right now. You've also got one team that's not afraid to utilize their running back to get the passing game going, the Eagles and Saquon Barkley. This should be a fun one in Cincinnati with the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. The Atlanta Falcons take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the NFC South showdown. So for the Falcons, embarrassed last week by the Seattle Seahawks, they had no answers for the Seahawks running game and that offense. And as for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, losing a tough one on Monday night to the Baltimore Ravens. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will remain at home in Tampa, and the Falcons traveling short distance. And this is going to come down to the quarterbacks with Kirk Cousins going up against Baker Mayfield. Baker, he's going to be without Mike Evans for quite some time. He suffered a hamstring injury in the game Monday night against Baltimore. And as for Chris Godwin, he dislocated his ankle. He's going to be out for quite some time as well. The Falcons, they've got Kyle Pitts, they've got Bijan Robinson, and I don't think there's going to be any defense in this game. This is going to be offense, and both quarterbacks are really going to get theirs in this one, with the Atlanta Falcons going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Baltimore Ravens will square off against the Cleveland Browns. So first for Cleveland, Deshaun Watson, their quarterback, done for the year, tearing his Achilles on a non-contact injury. Out goes Deshaun. In comes Jameis Winston. So Jameis Winston, he's an experienced NFL quarterback. When he was the starter for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he led the league in passing, but he also led the league in interceptions in that same season. He had a renewed spirit, and he also had a renewed frame of mind as the quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. There was one year, I believe it was Sean Payton's last season in New Orleans, where the first month and a half of the year, Winston really lit it up, and the Saints got on a hot streak, and he suffered a devastating injury, and then the season just went downhill from there. So after several seasons in New Orleans, Jameis has a new look on life and is a quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, and he will start in this game. As for the Baltimore Ravens, a lot of Lamar Jackson and a whole lot of Derrick Henry in the victory over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Monday night. Cleveland, they've solved their quarterback situation, at least for the moment. Baltimore, no signs of letting up. We have an AFC North rivalry game in Cleveland with the Baltimore Ravens going up against the Cleveland Browns. The Indianapolis Colts will square off against the Houston Texans. So for the Colts, tough win over the Miami Dolphins. For the Houston Texans, tough loss over the Green Bay Packers in Green Bay. So Indianapolis continue to ride off of that momentum. For the Texans, they're looking to put this loss behind them and try to get a victory in this AFC South rivalry game. And I think it's going to come down to the quarterbacks. Anthony Richardson versus C.J. Stroud. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be great. What more could you ask for? Both of these quarterbacks, we know Anthony Richardson has been hampered by injuries throughout much of his short NFL career. And C.J. Stroud has just set the league on fire. I mean, what a monster rookie year he had last year, and he's already having a very productive year this year. So it's going to be a good one down in H-Town with the Indianapolis Colts going up against the Houston Texans. We have the Chicago Bears going up against the Washington Commanders. So for the Commanders, Jaden Daniels in the first quarter suffered a rib injury. He did not return. A tried veteran, Marcus Mariota, came in, finished the job, and hey, it was a good look for him. You know Marcus, you know he's dependable. You know Marcus is somebody that doesn't turn the ball over too much. He's got an accurate arm, and he's not afraid to use his athletic ability as the Commanders steamrolled the Panthers. As for the Chicago Bears, they had bye week, and before the bye week, they had the game in London beating the Jacksonville Jaguars. So what we thought it was going to be Caleb Williams versus Jaden Daniels is going to be, I think it's still going to be an exciting game between Chicago and Washington. I think a lot of emphasis is going to be on Washington's running game. I think Mariota is going to get his. I think Mariota is going to be effective, but I think it's really going to come down to the running game. And Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Eckler, and I think Jeremy McNichols could get some action as well. As for Chicago, we know Caleb Williams is going to do it throwing the ball and running the ball. But DeAndre Swift is a secret weapon. He's the X factor on that team. DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, they'll get their catches, but I think it begins and ends with DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift has been an X factor for this Bears offense so far this year. So it should be a good one in Landover, Maryland, a.k.a. the DMV, with the Chicago Bears taking on the Washington Commanders. Sunday Night Football, the Dallas Cowboys will square off against the San Francisco 49ers. So let's start off with the Cowboys for a moment. They had a bye week last week, and the week before the bye week, they were embarrassed by the Detroit Lions. So the bye week hopefully would give Dak, CD, and company a chance to rest up a bit. The Cowboys are still decimated with injuries. Micah Parsons may not play in this game. And if Dallas has their problems of their own, the Indianapolis Colts have their problems. The San Francisco 49ers have their problems of their own as well. Brock Purdy did not play a great game last week against Kansas City. Brandon Ayuk, their wide receiver who got a massive contract extension just before the season started, he's done for the year after tearing his ACL and MCL. Deebo Samuel, hospitalized this week with pneumonia. He won't play in this game. And then George Kittle battling an ankle sprain as well. San Francisco has their problems just like Dallas. However, I think San Francisco, they're in their right mind. They're in their right mind, and they have less distractions. Yes, they have injuries. That much is true. However, I think San Francisco has enough concentration. They have enough players, and I think they'll take full advantage of a lot of Dallas's top defenders being hurt. And you know, when the Cowboys and the 49ers play, it's always nostalgia. When you think of those Hall of Famers and the Super Bowls that both franchises have won, it's always exciting. And it's always a fun game, especially on the West Coast with the Dallas Cowboys going up against the San Francisco 49ers. Monday Night Football, the New York Giants will square off against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Russell Wilson, very effective in his first start as the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He really got going in the second half in the Sunday night win over the New York Jets. Russell and company, they were able to move the ball down the field, Russell was able to hook up with his tight end, Pat Freiermuth. He was also able to hook up with great targets such as George Pickens, also hooking up with Van Jefferson for a couple of scores. And Najee Harris, you talk about a power running back. I talked earlier about Derrick Henry, but Najee Harris, I mean, he fits Pittsburgh so well with what they're trying to accomplish with that power running game. And Pittsburgh's defense, Beanie Bishop, 2 interceptions in the Sunday night win over the Jets. Beanie Bishop was very effective. And as for the New York Giants, embarrassed by their NFC East rival Philadelphia Eagles. The team is just in trouble. I don't know what to make of this. I don't know if Daniel Jones is still on the hot seat. Daniel Jones, I mean, will he be the quarterback going forward for this team? I don't know, but right now he's got a tough task ahead of him for Monday night in downtown Pittsburgh. The Terrible Towels will be in full force. When are they not out in full force, right? Win, lose, or draw, rain, sleet, snow, hail, sunshine, Steelers fans, they always show up at Acrisure Stadium. And that will be the game on Monday night with the New York Giants taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now it's time for my game of the week. My game of the week is going to be the Dallas Cowboys versus the San Francisco. My game of the week is going to be the Chicago Bears versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels. Williams, the number 1 overall pick. Daniels, the number 2 overall pick. Williams, Oklahoma, and later went to USC. Jaden Daniels started his career at Arizona State, later finished at LSU. Both quarterbacks, Heisman Trophy winners. When the schedule came out for this game, myself, along with a lot of other people, were very excited for this contest. Let's fast forward now to week 8. I'm still very excited about this game, but here's the catch. Quarterback won't be playing in this game, and that's Jaden Daniels. Daniels suffered a rib injury in the victory over the Carolina Panthers last week. But guess what? The Commanders still have a chance to compete. Marcus Mariota, do not sleep on Marcus. He is a tried and true veteran. He has experience, and he's fairly capable of doing the job. Mariota, accurate arm, athletic ability. He's able to stretch the field and keep the offense on the field. With this game, it's going to be about the running backs. Brian Robinson Jr., Austin Eckler, Jeremy McNichols, they have dazzled and put up some solid numbers so far this year for the Commanders. But Chicago has got a dynamo running back with DeAndre Swift. And you know about DeAndre during his time with the Philadelphia Eagles, man. DeAndre Swift was awesome then, and he is showing his worth to the next level with the Chicago Bears. I believe, as I stated earlier, he's an X factor for Chicago's offense. But this game is exciting, not just because of Caleb Williams and the other players that are going to be involved in this game, like a Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze, and also a Cole Kmet, and also Terry McLaurin, Zach Ertz, De'Ami Brown, just to name a few. But the fever pitch is exciting for both teams' fan base. It's been a minute since the Chicago Bears, really their fan base, have really rallied around a team that has a winning record for the moment. And if you thought the wait was long for the Chicago Bears, the wait was extremely long for the Washington Commanders. They've had to go through quarterback after quarterback after quarterback. And Jaden Daniels appears to be the one. And even with Jaden being hurt, the Commanders have a winning record, and it's still exciting for both fan bases with Chicago and Washington. If you know the history of the NFL, you know the Bears and the Commanders, they've been landmark franchises for decades, especially during the 80s and even up to the early part of the 90s. And they had a period where they went ice cold. But the Bears have had some moments during the mid-2000s. The Commanders had a brief period during the RG3 era, the Kirk Cousins era. But this time, I believe this is for real, that both fan bases will have the consistency again of being relevant and hopefully being winners. The Chicago Bears versus the Washington Commanders, my game of the week. All right, before we get on out of here, I want to give you my picks on who I think will win Week 8's most important games. Thursday Night Football, the Minnesota Vikings versus the Los Angeles Rams. I like Minnesota to win. The Philadelphia Eagles versus the Cincinnati Bengals. I like Philadelphia to win. The Atlanta Falcons versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I like Tampa Bay to win. The Baltimore Ravens versus the Cleveland Browns. I like Baltimore to win. The Indianapolis Colts versus the Houston Texans. I like Houston to win. The Chicago Bears versus the Washington Commanders. I think it's going to be a close game, but I like Washington to win. Sunday Night Football, the Dallas Cowboys versus the San Francisco 49ers. I like San Francisco to win. Monday Night Football, the New York Giants versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. I like the Steelers to win. So again, my picks are Minnesota, Philadelphia, Tampa Bay, Baltimore, Houston, Washington, San Francisco, Pittsburgh. And that's it. And that's going to do it for another edition of the League Wraparound. Thank you so much once again, as always, for tuning in to another exciting program. I'll tell you one thing, never a dull moment in the NFL, man. It's always moving, always shaking, always tons of storylines. But hey, that's the beauty of the National Football League. And again, thank you so much for tuning into the program. Until next time, everybody, I'm Ed Robinson saying so long, you take care, and enjoy the games. Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning into the channel. Remember to click like, share, and subscribe, and thank you for watching.